G'day trendsetters, John with Gravel Cyclist. To my immediate right is Mr. Gerard Vroomen of 3T Open. I've got a series of fascinating questions to ask him.
All right, I'll see what I can do with the answers.
Okay, Gerard, first question. So can you just give me a little bit of history about 3T and Open and how that collaboration came about? Because you've been associated with road, so it was quite a departure to go to that side, I thought.
Well, I mean, of course, with Cervelo, that was mostly road and triathlon, but me personally, I was always taking my road bike off-road. Okay. Just always liked that, and so I would squeeze the biggest possible tire into, Aero Cervelo frame, and you can fit a 28mm tire in, and after you ride it for 50 miles, it doesn't rub anymore. Right. And then you've scraped off enough carbon and paint that it works, and so I would ride that, but of course, you still flat a lot when you go off-road with that. So I started to think about, okay, I like the speed that I have on the road in a road riding position, but I don't like the flat. So how can I keep that position, put bigger tires on, and that's how to open up. So I got started. And then, the next step of that was, okay, how can I go, squeeze even more speed out of that and go with an aero frame? Not so much, one side, okay, you go a little bit faster on gravel, and if you want to win something on gravel, then that might be giving you the edge. But the other part is also, it just makes the bike even more versatile. And you say, hey, if I put road wheels on, then I'm really giving up nothing on people who have a pure road bike, so I can use the same bike and go on a group ride with my friends on Saturday, and then put on 650B wheels and go ride in the dirt on Sunday. And so that's sort of how that came about. And Open is a company that started together with Andy Kessler, and that's just it was just designed to be a very small company. It's just the two of us, and then we get some admin help and everything like that. But basically, it's a two-man company, and as we say, we're working hard to stay small, and that's really the goal. We don't want to hire anybody. We just, if we don't have time to do it, then we just don't do it. And 3T, of course, is a different story. A company that's almost 60 years old and really traditional Italian company that's doing all these, always done all these parts. Always been a very innovative company. So that's, I got involved in that just because it was always one of my favorite brands. I'm kind of a sucker for that. If Bianchi would have called, I would have also said yes. There's just a couple brands that I really like, and 3T is one of them. And so we ended up starting that adventure to make sort of the next generation of 3T products, which again involves a lot of gravel and a little bit of road as well.
Okay, fantastic. The drive side drops chainstay design. You were the first one, I guess, to pioneer it. It's an old design, I know that, but a lot of companies have, I don't want to say copied the design, but you
can say
they copied the design. Inspired by you. So you obviously saw the design and saw what it can do. I know what the premise is behind it, but maybe not everyone does. Just give me a little bit of brief on that, please.
I think the funniest part about this inspiration is not that everybody does it, because it's the only way to fit a bigger tire onto a frame and still have a narrow road cassette. But the funny thing to me is that even now, people introduce a bike with a drop chainstay, and they come up with these fantastic stories, how they've been brainstorming for years and blah blah. I think it's just called surfing the internet, and you find the solution to your problem. But these people have these most fantastic stories, how they were riding in Zimbabwe and coming up with this brainwave and coming up with this design. But anyways, aside from that, so the principle is quite simple. As I said before, I wanted to have a road bike, but then put the biggest possible tire on. So keeping that road geometry means, of course, you want a short chainstay. You want road cranks, not mountain bike cranks, because then you're just sort of riding like a duck. So you want to keep that very efficient, narrow pedal stands. And when you do all that, you have a big tire and you have a chain ring right there, because your chainstays are so short, then it's kind of hard to fit the chainstay through. So when you look at the overlap of this big rear wheel and the chain ring, then normally where the chainstay goes, that's really where they're the closest. So if you drop your chainstay, you get to an area where there's more space between that tire and the ring, because they're both sort of curving away from each other. So there is more space there, and that's where you try to weave your chainstay through. So it's very logical once you've figured it out, I guess.
Sure.
So yeah, that's really what made the Up possible. I mean, there were bikes before then that obviously had the dual wheel size thing. Steve had made a great frame called the Triple Crown, and it had that, but he had much longer chainstays because he didn't drop them, he just had them straight, and then that's what you have to do. So it was really taking that idea from Steve with the 650, 700C dual wheel size. When I was, I had lots of chats with him about these sorts of useless things, and then combining it with the drop chainstay, that made the more racy version of that kind of bike possible.
Is there anything on the horizon for Open or 3T that you could talk about? I mean, if you've got something coming that's in the future, no problem.
So the thing with Open is, right, we're always working on things, but we don't introduce it unless it's at that point where we really want to ride it ourselves. That's sort of our key rule with Open. We only want to make bikes that we want to ride ourselves, and we're confident that there are enough, men and women out there who also want to ride it if we like to ride it. And so that also means, because we're so small and because we're not really worried about sales or anything like that, that we can abandon projects. So for example, we've had 12 projects now, like we always number them, and Open 12 is sort of the last project we've done, but there have only ever been 3 models that we've introduced. The other 9 have been trashed. Okay. So, this would never happen at a real bike company. You wouldn't invest so much money. Once you've invested it, then we go like, hey, it's good enough, let's just put it out there and make our investment back. But we're fortunate that we can do that, and that we're supported by an amazing group of customers who like our product and buy enough of it that we can continue to sort of putz around and try to come up with things that are a bit different and interesting, and whenever that's good enough, we bring it out, and before then we don't. So we never know really when we're going to introduce it, and we don't schedule an introduction a year in advance the way big companies do. We keep putzing around until we're happy, and then we bring it to market.
Awesome, good stuff. Where do you see the future of gravel bike design?
I think what we call gravel bikes will more or less completely take over the road bike scene. So if you now have a performance-oriented gravel bike, so something like an Open U.P.P.E.R or Exploro. Gravel is such a wide thing, right? Of course, you also have a 3 months in Mongolia bikepacking gravel bike, which is also great, but that's a different beast altogether. But when you look at the performance gravel bike, you put road wheels on there, it rides 100% as a road bike. In fact, it rides better than a road bike because once you have the bike, even if you want to put road tires on, you're still going to put a little bit bigger road tires on. You're going to put a 32mm tire on instead of 28 or 25, so you get that extra comfort. The geometry usually is a little bit better suited to people who don't ride 6-7 hours a day, the way most road bikes are and everything. So the gravel bike with road wheels is really a better road bike than a road bike. And you still have the option to, if you want to go off-road, to put bigger tires on, or a 650B wheel set, etc. So it does everything a road bike does and then more. So that means that unless you're really a racer, the road bike 5 years from now will be dead. And you can argue if it's really the road bike dying or gravel bikes becoming road bikes or whatever it is, but that pure road bike is going to go away. And of course you already see that, right? If you look at today's road bike, which is more and more popular, the popular road bikes are endurance bikes, and all endurance bikes nowadays are disc brakes. So already now, what is the difference between that and a gravel bike? Right. It's tire clearance. Sure. Well, let's just widen it up and then go with that then, right?
Yeah, right. Good answer.
Thank you.
Good answer.
It's only like I thought about it.
1 by or 2 by?
1 by.
Okay. How about 650B or 700C?
675. Now, I really like both. So I would say, the nice thing about 650 versus 700 is the tailoring, right? It's that you can make that choice. So the great thing about 650B is that you don't have to ride it all the time.
Right.
So my favorite is a 650B wheel set with a real mountain bike tire, so not a 47mm or whatever, but a 2.1 inch or even bigger than that mountain bike tire, and then a 700C wheel set with a 35mm or 38mm pure road or almost pure road tire. So a very you know, maybe a foul tread or something like that,
Sure.
but not big knobs or anything on it.
Yeah.
So that when you ride that on asphalt, it's super smooth but still super fast.
Yeah.
And you have enough volume that when you go into, let's say, easy gravel, whatever you want to call that, you know, you have that volume to protect you from flats and everything.
Yeah, nice.
So sorry I didn't answer your question.
That's
but,
okay. It was a roundabout answer. It's okay, man. I appreciate your honesty and very candid. Here we go. This is a controversial question. It may not apply in Europe. Aero bars on gravel bikes.
I'm with Jeff Kabush on this one.
Okay.
Not because he rides an Open. I'm not, but you know, it's dangerous. So and I don't like the purity. I think it looks stupid. I mean, I'm going to sound like some old,
That's okay.
you know, cranky traditionalist or something, which I am not. But I don't see the point. I mean, the point for me of gravel riding is not to get the fastest from A to B. It's to enjoy the ride. And if you're riding in a group, aero bars should never be in the equation. And gravel rides, most of them are so popular that there are always groups. Unless you're really as slow as I am, then you're pretty much by yourself off the back. But let's ignore that. So it just, you know, it doesn't belong in group riding. Also on the road, it doesn't belong in group riding.
No.
Gravel rides are not time trials, and then just the aesthetics of it is not good.
I agree.
So.
It's a bit messy. Yeah. Final question. Suspension on gravel bikes.
Hey, people should do whatever they want, but I don't think that will become a big part of the market, simply because now we're just going more towards a mountain bike, and we're going more towards the reasons why a mountain bike is not a great gravel bike, right? The great thing with a gravel bike is that it's not only good on gravel, but you can ride on all these things. You can ride on asphalt, on gravel, on single track, all these things. And the purpose is not to now make that bike the fastest on all those surfaces. I think the goal is to make that bike fun on all surfaces.
Right.
And so if you have a fast gravel bike on asphalt, it's fun, just like a road bike. If you put suspension on that bike gets slower, sluggish, doesn't have that nimble feel, it gets less fun on asphalt. So then you look at the other side where the suspension would really shine, which is then on the really tricky stuff. So yeah, their suspension will make the bike faster. Will it make the bike more fun? Well, I don't know. I mean, descending tricky stuff without suspension is also fun. It's not as fast. Who cares? I mean, going fast just means you get home quicker, right? So it's more important that it's fun. It's fun with any bike off-road, and on-road it's more fun without suspension. So for sure you can come up with some sort of course where, you know, you get a little bit more fun on suspension than without. But I think in general, and you don't really need it on most roads that you use on a gravel bike. I mean, the tires are so big that they soak up a lot of
the pneumatic
the problems
suspension
anyways. And if you really go to super tricky stuff, then a mountain bike is a better bike than either a suspension or non-suspension gravel bike. So I don't really. It's really sort of a niche market, and to me the great thing about a gravel bike is that it's an anti-niche part. Like a lot of when we started, I'm sure you noticed also when you started a website, people thought, oh, gravel is a niche, but it's an anti-niche. It's like it's a niche buster. It's everything together, and the suspension sort of takes away from that in my field. But, I'm a classic.
That's okay. Hey, you know, it's a free country. Opinions are welcomed. Well, Gerard, thanks for your time today.
Thanks for having me.
Oh, it was a pleasure, mate. Thank you.
Thank you for watching. If you haven't already, please subscribe to the Gravel Cyclist YouTube channel, and don't forget to click the bell button to be notified of future videos as they are released to the channel. I'll see you in the next video.